You know, Texas is changing. Everywhere I look, I see it. I see it in the big cities, and I see it out here where we live in rural Texas. But the way it's changing isn't the same for all of us. Out here in the countryside, where you're more likely to see cattle and cars, things move a little bit slower, and there's a certain rhythm to our life. But in cities like Dallas, Austin, and Houston, things are moving fast. And the issues that people talk about seem almost foreign to us sometimes. You see, we're part of the same state, part of the same culture, but it feels like we're living in two different worlds. Much like a lot of people do in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. Take school choice. You see, it's all over the news all the time now, especially as we're coming into election season, and especially from politicians and influencers in bigger cities. They talk about school choice like it's a solution, for everyone. Something that will bring better opportunities to every child. And sure, in a city where there are dozens of schools to choose from, it sounds great. Families can pick the school that best fits their child's needs and best fits their individual family philosophy. But out here in rural Texas, we're lucky if we have one good school within driving distance. There's no fancy magnet schools, no charter schools a mile down the road. For us, the neighborhood school is the school. The school choice issue, it may sound like an easy fix on a talk show, but when you live out here, it's clear that one-size-fits-all solutions just don't work for everyone. They may work for the big cities, but they don't always work for us. And it's the same with healthcare. In Austin or Dallas or San Antonio, you have options. Hospitals on nearly every corner. Specialists for every health concern under the sun, But here, we have one hospital, if we're lucky, and maybe a couple of general practitioners. We don't have the luxury of picking a better option. Our options are limited with what's around, and sometimes that means driving for hours to get to a bigger city or town just to see a specialist. Now, healthcare is different for us, but it seems like people in power don't get that. They never do. They're too busy talking about the social issues and the national debates that don't address our real needs as voters, as taxpayers, as citizens. They're fighting over the big ideas that sound nice in a press release, but out here, we're just fighting like hell to keep our local clinic open. Now, I wonder sometimes about the people who make these decisions, the ones who claim to represent us. They say they're like us, and they understand, they say, our way of life and our values. They might put a cowboy hat on for a rally or talk about growing up in a small town, but you can tell these idiots are different. They might dress the part, but they sure as hell don't live it. They don't understand what it's like to rely on one school or one hospital or one bank or, they don't understand what it's like to live in a place where your closest neighbor might be a mile away. You see, these politicians, and I don't care whether they're Democrat or Republican, they're wolves in sheep's clothing, dressed up like they look like they want to belong here, but at the end of the day, these motherfuckers are just playing a role. Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, you name it. These motherfuckers are just playing a role. They don't live like us. They don't share our struggles. But they sure pretend to do what they do when the suit doesn't fit them, right? So sometimes it feels like we, the people in rural Texas and in rural America, we don't get the same say-so as our neighbors in the city. It's as if our voice doesn't matter as much because we don't live in a densely packed neighborhood or have thousands of followers on social media. Our small towns, our communities are spread out. They may be a little quieter. We don't make as much noise as the folks in Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. But does that make our voices not matter as much? When decisions are made that affect all of Texans and all of rural America, why does it feel like they're only made for half of it? I wonder if it's because we don't speak up enough. Maybe we're too used to being overlooked. Maybe we're just too used to protecting ourselves. Now maybe, damn it, that's part of the problem. We're not the type to stand in front of a microphone or rally for attention or do all these stuff, the gimmicky rallies like tractors for Trump or tricks for Joe or whatever it is, camels for Kamala. We're often much more private. We're much more reserved. But that doesn't mean that we're any less Texan, that our needs shouldn't come second. Sometimes I think people in Austin, like Greg Abbott, they just making decisions for a state that seems like it's their background plan, They come out here to rural areas when they need to rally the base, because they think we're just loyal to them, giving our support to them blindly because they claim to be Christian or they claim to be Texan or they claim to be this, that, or the other. But when it's time to make choices that count, these motherfuckers are nowhere to be seen. We're not a resource to be tapped in when it's convenient, Greg, Dan, Colin, Beto. We're the people with real needs, and we deserve to be heard. It feels like we're often misunderstood here in rural Texas. The national parties and your little henchmen that you bring in from Granite States, they're just talking heads, and they don't really see us for who we are. They see a voting base, a demographic, but they don't understand our way of life, and they truly damn sure don't understand our mindset. You see, y'all come out here and try to tell us what's good for us and how your ideas that are planted in your brain by the big city donors, you sons of bitches try to come out here and tell us how we think and how all your plans are good for us. Well, to you guys, we're just a character or a statistic. But instead, we're real people with real challenges, real values, real ideas, real problems. And you come out here to our town and you shake our hands, and you go to our Democrat and Republican rallies and all this other bullshit, and you put on your cowboy boots and you talk a big game about protecting our way of life. But when the spotlight moves back to the cities, you sumbitches forget all about us. Well, I think it's time we find our voice and we start using it. We have just as much right to a say-so in our state as the people in the cities. And if we don't speak up, if we don't demand to be heard, then we'll keep being overlooked. We're not here to be used by political parties, Republican or Democrat, that only care about us when they need a damn vote. We're here because Texas is our home, and we deserve leaders that respect that. And I don't care who they are. Greg Abbott, Danny Gobe, a.k.a. Danny Patrick, Colin Allred, I don't care who it is. We need people that respect that. Texas is changing, but it's not just the big cities that make up this damn state. It's all of us, every damn one of us. And maybe it's time to fight. And maybe it's time to stand up to the people in power that claim to be Texans. And remember that we're not just a little voting block anymore that's going to follow their lead. Maybe it's time we stand up, spit some tobacco in their eyes, and make them wake up. Because ain't no sumbitch in Austin that I see right now in touch with you or me. I'm journalist Matt Pierce. This is the way I see it. If you like this, subscribe, like, and comment. Let's have a conversation about it.